Order the City Council Committee of a Whole meeting for Tuesday, December 17th. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Taking roll call, all council members are present. Therefore, let's move on to the committee meeting items. Number 1, Public Works update. Mr. Sylvester.
Mayor Johnson and members of City Council, I'm bringing you the Public Works updates tonight. As far as streets go, snow has arrived and the crews have been busy trying to clear the snow. There have been some complaints coming in from cul-de-sacs as well as yard damages. Public Works addressing the cul-de-sac concerns as they come in, and have informed residents that the yard damages will be addressed in the spring. As far as storms, street sweeping was completed this fall. Storm ponds will be cleared of brush as time and weather permits this winter. Sewer, Public Works staff has removed the media from the wastewater treatment plant filters in preparation of the air piping repairs that will be done for the filters. City Council will see the request come through in January with some project information and costs. 1/3 of the city's sewer system was jetted and vacuumed this fall. For water, the staff has been working at the water treatment plant on the chlorine line replacement, which was a budgeted project. For parks, fall cleanup in the parks was completed. Public Works has begun flooding the pleasure rink and hoping for a skatable rink by Friday. Parks and Culture Manager Jenny Garvey has been working on new ideas for programs in our parks and how to improve on the ones we currently have.
I know we got some complaints on those cul-de-sacs. You're doing your due diligence here to figure out a better strategy of tackling those, I'm assuming?
I'm following up on every one of them, yep.
Awesome.
These last 2 snowfalls, I didn't have a complaint at all in the cul-de-sacs.
Good,
It was just
good.
really the initial snowfall.
Good. Good job, Mr. Sylvester. Thank you much.
Thank you.
D2, proposed city mission, vision, and value statements. Ms. Wood?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So staff work collaboratively among each other to come up with a mission statement, a vision statement, and also core values of what we felt encompassed the city of Isanti. We worked on 3 long sessions on that. It was open to all city employees to participate, and it was required of all department heads to participate in this. What you see in the memo before you is what we came up with. Staff is asking that you read those statements and let us know if you have any direction of changing, or ultimately if you'd like to see this go to council.
Any questions, comments, or concerns by the council? I like it. To encourage innovation, to be friendly, helpful, and customer service orientated. Did you take that out of my book there, Ms. Wood? Friendly, helpful. Well, she came up with the rest because I never said any more than that, so she's very creative. We all know that. No questions? Comments, concerns? I like it.
Looks good.
Thank you.
I agree. Move forward with that, Ms. Wood.
Will do.
D3, administrative permit fees for nonprofits. Discussion on, this came about on the deer hide boxes that we have during deer hunting season. My personal opinion is if it's a nonprofit, why are we charging these people?
I said
If
that
it's a
alone.
profit,
I don't think we have.
well, we
In
have.
the past for the deer hide boxes.
Yes.
Oh,
We
yes,
have.
sir, we have.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember having this discussion a few years back.
No,
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you what, every year,
$75.
I'm on a sportsman's club, and every year when deer hunting comes around, I get, the Deer Hunter Association calls me and complains constantly about it. And they
Right.
never used to have to pay for it up to about 3-4 years ago.
That's what yeah.
It was
So,
$75, right, Ms. Wood?
Yep.
Ms. Selman?
I
Yes,
guess,
for an administrative permit, correct.
So it was $75 these nonprofits are paying. Now, if it was a profitable organization, by all means, charge them. But if it's nonprofit for like the Boy Scouts or the wrestling team, I think we had the other box, why are we charging them? I mean, I still would like them to come in and fill out an application so we know if they get overfilled or it starts to smell or we have issues of that nature that we know who to contact to to take care of it, but other than that, what do we need money for from a
I guess I
nonprofit?
wasn't aware that we started charging them again.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
3, 4 years ago, that's when it came down. Yep, no, it came down. I've always thought that, I think one year I told them, take it out of my council pay. I'll take care of it. And I just paid it so they didn't have to. Because, I mean, it's just, I don't think it's necessary.
No.
I mean, I'd rather see somebody bring a hide there and throw it in there than leave it lying alongside the ditch someplace.
I agree.
I mean, I personally, I do have on a lot of nonprofits, a lot of things that we charge them for, and I don't think we should be.
Actually, the money they raise goes to Forkhorn camps for the youth, so it's a great cause
Yeah, I
Yep,
for the MNDA. anyway.
yep. So I think, you know, as time comes, I think if we do have some other things that come up for nonprofits, you know, church groups, whatever, you know, I think we should address them as they go. But as as far as I'm concerned, for these hide boxes, as long as they come in and fill out for a permit, that's all we're asking for, is just fill out for a permit.
information.
Information permit, no fee. I'm fine with that, absolutely.
So Mayor and Council, if we are going to go that route for administrative permits, just so we're clear, none of the fees would apply to any nonprofit that would fall under that category? Or do you want to be specific for just the deer hide boxes?
I think specific for deer.
I think we
at
should.
this time
I
anyway.
agree. I mean,
At
at
this
this time,
time.
let's be specific to the deer hide boxes, but we'll address the others, as Councilman Lundin said, as we go.
You know, and if they want to come in and apply for it, we can bring it into Cal, or we can bring it into the council, and we can decide at that point. I mean, sometimes nonprofit, nonprofit companies they make more money than profitable companies do. So, I mean, it's all gonna depend on what it is. I mean,
And you give them an inch, they're gonna take a foot. So.
yeah,
So then, what we can do, and I'm going to ask Ms. Selman to also chime in on this, is if we want to look at it case-by-case basis, perhaps what we do, because if we were to give nonprofits no fee, we'd have to amend city code, and we'd have to amend our fee schedule to put that in there, that it would have a zero cost, you know, and then the 75 for profit. Perhaps what we do is we have those nonprofit groups fill out the permit, and then each time we come before council to waive that fee, so then it is truly case-by-case basis.
That would work.
Like, I know Rum River Rods, we've always had the event fee waived because
By
it's
special, by
nonprofit.
asking of the council.
Right,
And
but
we
they
have-
came,
event
they
application.
come before the council.
they came before the
Yep.
council to do
So
it.
I would agree with
I
that.
think that the way you would word it in the fee schedule is case-by-case basis.
Well, we wouldn't even have to amend the fee
Yeah, we
schedule.
wouldn't have to do
If we
that.
do a case-by-case by staff, that we always bring it before council, because council can choose to give a different fee or waive it if they so choose. Because the thing is, with the deer hide boxes, we don't currently have that listed out individually within our city code. It falls under, what is that category that it falls under?
It's an
Just a-
administrative permit? It's
No,
just
but the selling, it's under vendor sales or something
Yes.
like that. They're actually, deer hide is kind of one of those gray areas. It doesn't fit exactly under one category. So if we wanted to give special exception for deer hides, we'd have to amend that section of code. So I think what we could do is keep it the way it is, falls within the administrative permits for selling of the vendor, but then we bring it before council, adds maybe 2 weeks to their approval, but then they could ask council to waive that fee.
What did we do for the fire district when they used to, Reichels used to have the big roll-off out there for crushed cans? What did we do for that?
I guess I don't know, I'd have to.
Because
look
that's the
into
same
that.
thing. You know, you're collecting something to raise funds for something.
Yeah, but again, we would just do
Nonprofit.
like Ms. Wood said, and we would look at it case by case. So they're coming just like, the Hot Rod Association comes before the council, and we approve that.
So do
We-
we list it case by case? Because my worry is, they hear we do it for one, and, you know, it's case by case, well, why wouldn't you do it for us? I mean, I don't think I'd list it under that, just if they want to waive, like, the Hot Rod Association came, why would, make the next group come before us too, and
And
we don't,
actually,
we don't
any
get that
group
many,
can
do we?
ask, excuse me, Councilmember, any group can ask to have any fee waived technically.
Sure.
You can go before council to have your request heard.
Yeah.
So I guess you just say, you request to see the council, and the council can decide
Well, if they
that.
have, if they have a problem with the fee, they'll let somebody know and say, why is this so much? And, well, you can go before the council and talk to us, you know, or
Yeah.
talk to the council, see what they say, so.
Yeah.
But I would just be concerned if we said case by case, it just would encourage more people to come up here and say, well,
You did it for them, why not us?
Because they'll find out. I mean, they'll start investigating and, well, what does this mean case by case? Who did you waive it for, you know?
And the mayor and council would also give staff the opportunity to find out if they truly are a nonprofit, they'll have a 501c3 or some kind of documentation, we can obtain that as well. So
Yeah,
we
they're
can do
definitely
that
gonna have to have
before.
a 503C fee. If they don't have it, they're not, that's not considered a nonprofit.
Correct, well, there's, yeah.
Technically.
Technically, it's not.
Yep, so, okay, we'll proceed that way.
That route it is. Move on to D4, the draft ordinance amending Chapter 227, the parking and storage. Mr. Sylvester?
Mayor Johnson and members of City Council, this would be a drafted ordinance amending Chapter 227 Parking and Storage, which would be adding no parking to 8th Avenue Northeast, and removing some of the no parking on 9th Avenue Northeast, and I've attached a map on the back where exactly, so yellow is the existing no parking, and red would be where the no parking would be moving to.
This is what we discussed last call, and we were a little confused on it, but at the end, we ended up working it out. He's just basically saying, is this correct, and do we want to move forward?
I think that's what we discussed.
That
just
is
way.
correct. Everything I see here is correct.
Yeah, I think it looks good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay, thank you.
D5, drafting ordinance amending Chapter 68, adult use. Ms. Selman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you recall, we, per League of Minnesota Cities, needed to update our city code for the adult uses. What is attached is the draft. One of the major changes is that defining an adult use is a business that has 25% or more of their sales or materials relating to adult use. So that's how we're defining it here, per the city attorney's recommendation. Also, per case law, that's what they seem to be the most, thank you, most defendable. So they're also recommending that we take out accessory use. Right now, we have adult use as an accessory use. It's in the B2 district and the industrial district, and that allows you to have 10% of your business as an adult use. They're saying to remove that because that is not defendable. If we follow this recommendation, it does allow the current business in town, they could go up to 24% of their items that they have for sale. That would change with this amended ordinance.
The only question I have on that is how do you determine that it's 25% of their sales, though?
It's sales or material, so you could do a measurement of the floor area. So you take the size of the store, and then 25% of that could only be those types of sales.
But also, if you look at that too, if it's warehouse space, that cannot be considered as floor space.
Correct.
So, I mean, if you got 10,000 square feet of warehouse space, and you got 5,000 square feet of, retail space, you can't take that 10,000, make that 15,000 and saying 25% of that.
Right, it's just retail items, not,
Okay.
this isn't talking about the warehousing.
But, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I kind of understood as 25% of their sales.
Well, it says in here, it says inventory, stock and trade, display merchandise, or significant portion of its floor area, a significant portion of gross revenues from items, merchandise, devices, and materials. So it's both.
Councilmember Lundin,
I-
that is correct, it is of sales, but we would not have any way of determining because we don't get any requirement on how much they do sell, but that is correct.
To me, this looks like, yeah, we're going to give 15% more to the current store, but this is getting a little tighter for anything else that wanted to come in the city, an adult bookstore, video store, entertainment center. I mean, it has a list of them here.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. And also, this new ordinance would limit it just
Yeah.
to the industrial district, not any of the other zoning districts.
So, I mean, there's 12 entities or adult items that they listed here that it's getting tighter restraints. It gives not only our police, but our attorney a little more bit of a leg to stand on
Excuse
to
me,
enforce
Mayor.
these ordinances.
Mayor, just to be clear though, it is for only if it's over 25% is what this applies for. So theoretically, if another business wanted to move in and they had 20% of this type of content, we would not be able to regulate that. They would be allowed in the other areas too. And that's part of that type of business or that type of product sales is
But
unregulated.
Ms. Selman just said it has to be in the industrial area.
If it's over 25%.
So if it's under 25%, it can go anywhere in our retail.
Correct.
Correct.
But you're saying that this is defendable in court, that we can actually enforce this, whereas in times past, we had rules that were more strict, but not enforceable according to the attorney from the League of Minnesota Cities, right?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, yeah, that's correct.
So this is actually what we can enforce.
Yeah, according to the League of Minnesota Cities attorney.
It's given us a little more leg to stand on, absolutely.
But it has to be, it has to be known that even though that's the business overlay district, federal law is gonna supersede that. I mean, our hands are tied there. It's not a state, it's not a city law, it's not a county law, it's federal law. And they're not gonna look at what we have in effect already in that overlay district. So it's challengeable no matter what way you look at it in the overlay district.
I can't see
Huh?
I can't see the federal government even wanting to waste their time or money enforcing something like that.
But like he said, if we went to court, we'd lose.
He did say that.
He did say that. I specifically asked him that. He
I
said,
think we
"You
should,
would
I think we
lose."
should get a second opinion myself. There's gotta be somebody, I think there's other parts of it.
Marijuana is against federal law. But yet you got, what, 7, 8, 12 states that legalized it?
Municipal wise, correct.
That's because
No.
of that's because of the 10th
Not
Amendment.
municipal
I mean, I
wise.
think we should.
Recreational.
Based on the 10th Amendment myself. That's-
Actually municipal, I think, because.
Did we ever ask our attorney that? Councilman Burgley has screamed 10th Amendment, I think, since the start of all this. Did we ever ask our attorney about the 10th Amendment, and could it apply to any of this, or?
No, I did not.
Mr. Mayor, it hasn't come up in any of the conversations that I've had.
I mean, that's probably the 5th or 6th time I've heard him say that 10th Amendment. Maybe we should look in, or have our attorney at least look at it.
Well, Councilman,
I think the 10th Amendment too, I mean, the sanctuary cities, they're using the 10th Amendment as their justification for being a sanctuary city too. So, I mean, I think there maybe is something to it, I don't know. But I mean, I think the attorney that we talked to from League of Minnesota Cities too, he had mentioned that it's their First Amendment right as that business owner. So, I mean, that's how they're justifying it on their side. So you have kind of a First versus a 10th Amendment issue maybe, and I don't know.
the beauty of the
His
10th,
opinion was
I'm
we
sorry, I
lose.
thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
The beauty of the 10th Amendment takes the federal government out of the equation. Because it's the people and the state, and we're the people, and so it takes the federal government out of the equation. And I don't know if everyone's ever used that argument, the 10th Amendment, saying, we're the people, we're not even gonna, who said the marijuana laws? The marijuana laws, that's how the states are coming up with marijuana laws, because they're saying the 10th Amendment, and so they're able to supersede the federal government, and I think we at least should investigate it, because we had somebody out in our audience last time, 10 people showed up, and I hear it all the time, what can you guys do, and what can you guys do, and I don't think we should just let this die, myself.
I'm not gonna disagree with that.
Do you even know what the 10th Amendment says?
I'd have
Well,
to read it verbatim.
I can tell you what it says right here. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people.
yeah, we're the people, absolutely. So what power is delegated to the federal government in this issue? I don't think anything. I think it's at least worth investigating, I'll say that. I'm not gonna say we're gonna win, but I think we're showing our constituents, or whatever we call them, citizens or residents, that, hey, we're not gonna take this lying down. So this attorney says one thing, it's like going to the doctor, you get a second opinion if you don't like if you want, before you have surgery or anything else done, so.
Mayor and council, we can definitely look into it. And before we move forward on this, I think that we should maybe get clarity on that. So we'll reach out to the attorneys and have them give us some more information.
Because there might be some, even though it's what it's stating, there might be some
There might be a catch-22 in there somewhere.
there's gotta be a catch-22 in there someplace that we're not seeing or quite understanding exactly what it means. You know, I mean, it could say all of a sudden in the bottom in fine print, refer to the First Amendment, and then you're SOL. So, yes, I'm not a legal person, so I'm not gonna tell you one way or another, but I do feel that maybe it's something that we should at least entertain to look at to see if we can supersede that with that.
Well, as Councilman Collison said, that's how, and I believe it's the 10th Amendment they're using to get around the federal government. The federal government has a law, no marijuana. You know, it's illegal, you can't do it, you know, but even President Trump said, he's leaving it up to the states, and that's because of the 10th Amendment. Well, why can't this be left up to the city of Isani? It's the state and the people, we're the people, so.
But
So I
then-
appreciate what you're saying, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I'm just emphatic about it. It's worth a try.
But
That's
then
all.
again, you turn on the other way around that, if you leave one of those states that allows legalized marijuana and you transport across state line, you just broke federal law and you're going to jail.
Well, we're not transporting.
I know,
I'm
I
not gonna-
understand that,
I'm
but
not-
but that's that Great Point area, so I mean, I
That's-
need somebody with a lot more
Well-
knowledge in the laws, what we can do with
That's
that,
why we
than
said
for me
we'll-
to make
I'm
that.
not saying
Look into
I know exactly the way it states, I mean, exactly the way it applies to every situation, but
It's a little
I've,
different, but, I mean, they're
Well-
not selling illegal items,
yeah.
you know? It's just the position we hold on them selling
Yeah.
any of them items.
I think it'd be worth
Not that they're
taking a
illegal,
look
so-
at, get a little more education on, absolutely.
Absolutely. It's not that we're just trying to leave this go away,
I don't think any of us want to let it go away.
no, but I still think at this point, if we get another legal advice that says, no, that's,
Dumbest question is.
Well, there is
the one
such a
that's
thing as the
asked.
10th Amendment Center.
I agree with that
I
one.
would certainly be willing to contact them and see if they have,
so I'm all for us proceeding further to see about it, so.
yeah,
Yes, Mayor and Council, we definitely can.
thank you.
Okay. We'll move forward then to D6, draft ordinance amending, Don, you might as well hit all these at once, the Chapter 260 sewers, Chapter 325 water, and Chapter 262 sewer and water service charges.
Mayor Johnson, City Council, I'm pleased to bring to you tonight the updates to Chapter 260, the Sewer Code, Chapter 325, the Water Code, and a new code, Chapter 262, which actually is water and sewer use fees. We've had a complete review of these city chapters. It was a complex review. It involved existing codes as well as amendments that have been added in over the course of years to different areas of the code. So you're always flipping back and forth between the pages when you've got somebody at the desk or on the phone trying to figure things out, as well as what practice has been, which sometimes is in conformance with the code or not. Josie, Mike, Tabitha were deeply involved in these reviews. And as a part of this, we thought really 90% of the phone calls that come in deal with the rates. Why am I being charged this? How do you do this? That's why we thought it maybe made sense to come up with a separate code section just on those charges and use fees. So we've taken those out so that we feel it clarifies it for any citizen looking it up on the website, looking at the city code or whatever, you know, where it's plain, it's right in front of you, and we can explain it to them either in person or over the phone. So our recommendation is to move forward with this, and it has been reviewed by the city attorney.
I like it.
Good work on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, darn good work on that, Don.
I
Josie.
agree, move forward.
Tabitha, she's not here. Mike, he's not here either, but good work by all.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, here's the big one for Mr. Sylvester and Mr. Cook. D7, the Sled Hill discussion.
Mayor Johnson, a member of City Council, we talked about this at our last COW meeting, was asked to bring back some better numbers on what a sledding hill would cost in Bluebird Park. So the ideal sledding hill would be 120 feet long, 50 feet wide, with a 4-to-1 slope on the front for sledding and a 6-to-1 slope on the sides and back, where you would climb up on top of the hill. The hill would have a 10 by 20 flat staging area on top, and this would be similar, the slope would be similar to the hill at the soccer complex or the soccer fields near the wastewater plant where that hill is there on the east side, or the west side of the wastewater ponds there. So there's two possible locations in Bluebird Park that we came up with, and on the map there, it shows you location A and location B. There is 1,850 yards of dirt at the shop and 350 cubic yards of compost or dirt at the shop that could be used. So location A, which is by the flagpole, we could use that dirt and create that hill. If we contracted it out, it'd be $22,000 to move that dirt over there, plus an additional $500 for seeding, which comes to a total of $22,500. If Public Works were to move that hill, that dirt from the shop to the location A, be 3 employees for 2 weeks, $6,653, plus the $500 for the additional seating, which comes to $7,153. Location B, which would be on the north berm by the parking lot, if we contracted that out, it'd be the same thing, the $22,000 plus the $500, but it would take an additional 1,250 cubic yards of dirt, be brought in to complete that hill. That would cost $19,000 to bring that dirt in, which brings a total of $41,500 if we contracted it out to build that hill. If Public Works did it, it'd be the 3 employees for 2 weeks, which is the $6,653 plus the $500. But Public Works isn't capable of hauling in the 1,250 yards of additional dirt that would be needed, so that brings us to that total of $26,153. So with location A, there are some concerns that the sledding hill would interfere with a future amphitheater or other park amenities that were planned for Bluebird Park. The snow would not be groomed, but rather fall in place wherever it lands, and the cost in Public Works time to move the dirt is approximate. So that moves us to, if we created the hill out of snow. So this would have to be created every year, and the sledding hill, snow would have to be hauled in from around town. It's not knowing how long it would really take, created on the density of the snow on hand, and how far we'd have to haul it. And it would require additional maintenance staff once created, and it would leave a dead spot in the spring that would have to get fixed every year because just of the salt and whatnot that's in the snow. That would need to be black dirt and seeded. So we took into account that if it took 2 weeks, 3 Public Works staff, that'd be that $6,000 again, plus the $1,000 for additional seeding. There's gonna be a little more to it with the dead grass, whatnot that's there. But to create that hill, I don't think we could do it with our wheel machine that we have right now. We'd have to rent a track skid steer to create that slope, that hill that we'd really need. So if we did that, the 80 hours for 2 weeks for 3 people, that comes us to $8,653, but if we had to do an overtime, that brings us to the $11,979. If it took us 3 weeks, it'd be the 3 employees, 3 weeks, $9,979, plus the $1,000 for the grass seed, plus the $1,000 to rent the machine, which brings us to that $11,979. But again, if we had to do an overtime, that brings us to $16,969. So with that, the concerns of building the hill out of snow, it's really unknown exactly how many hours to be able to maintain the snow throughout the season. There's gonna be some maintenance gonna be done on that snow hill. The snow will contain salt, garbage, and other debris that may be unsightly. It's unknown how much snow it will take because of year to year, how much, what's the density and whatnot. And with the small crew that I have, I can only dedicate 3 people to the project, and it may not be time to dedicate unless it's done in overtime. Other things to consider are snowmobiles that are in the park, and there'd be a liability to the city just because we're creating a sledding hill and one doesn't already exist. And I have the original park design is in there, a performance center drawing by Bolton and Mink. There's a couple different directions they went, a map of the potential sledding hill location, this is location A, location B, and then there's a risk management from the LMC on that also attached.
I believe this was Councilman Collison's item.
Yeah,
So now that,
I would definitely not do the snow, plow and snow. It's a lot of work for a very limited time of the year. And like you said, depending on the snow, I mean, you might not have a hill.
Councilor Collison, you're right. I mean, right now, the big push for us right now is to get this ice rink ready to go. And we had some really cold weather, and then we had a bunch of snow, and then it kind of warmed up a little bit. So this week, we're really pushing, let's get this rink ready to go. Because if we don't have the rink ready to go when winter break starts, it's kind of like, everybody uses it winter break if it's there. If we can't get it there, it's like, it doesn't get used as much.
Yeah, and you guys definitely don't have time to build a sledding hill with snow. I mean, that's,
my
you guys are out there long enough plowing the roads.
My concern on building a sledding hill, even if we decided, yeah, we'll bring in dirt, we'll build this hill, I would not put this in Bluebird Park. There's future projects that could possibly go in there. And if we put a sledding hill in its place, we might as well throw that project out the window. Which,
There's plenty of room for other stuff to go in there.
Well, if we had to do it there, I definitely would go plan location A, but I still think that, you know, the way that park was originally designed, that wasn't part of the design of that park.
Well, it's made lots of changes since then.
Do we have a,
But I'd like to see us move that park into that direction where it should have been. I really would. And I think that that's got a lot more potential for being used with these other things in there than sledding hill. I agree with you, Mr. Collison. I believe that we should have a sledding hill somewhere, but, because I know the people are screaming for it.
and I'm not disagreeing that we don't need this, Councilman Collison, but where? Where do we put it?
I think location A is the best spot.
I would
Explain
think
to
so.
me
Where,
again,
where,
least
where,
expensive,
in relation
too.
to the hill,
There's always-
where's that amphitheater supposed to go?
It's supposed to go right in the corner of Visani Parkway and Third.
That was the original.
That was the original
Discussion.
plan for that, which it's in this drawing. I'm a little confused here, Mr. Sylvester. Where's location A?
Location A is at the flagpole, facing down into the park. That already has like a 4-to-1 slope on the berm.
And that's where potentially the pavilion was supposed to go.
Mayor and
Amphitheater.
council,
Amphitheater.
if you would look at your map, the last map that you have,
Yeah,
so it's
it
the
was supposed to
third
be in the middle.
image. It shows actually where location A is in the corner, and then in almost a rectangular type box, it shows where the amphitheater would have been, potentially. So you can see where it is in relation to, if the amphitheater was there, hypothetically, and we put that sledding hill there, you'd slide right into the amphitheater, just if you look at that map.
Well, at least they have a backstop, huh?
Well, we would have to put something in there that,
Why
Jason
can't the
could be more
yeah.
answering to this one. Could that amphitheater get pushed
Forward?
Yeah, it's-
back more?
Or more to
Towards
the east?
Pavilion,
the southeast
picnic
corner,
shelter.
towards the picnic shelter.
If you're gonna put, because if you're gonna put a concert or something out there, wouldn't you wanna sit on the side of a hill and watch the concert?
But there's
There's some hill there.
There's
on
there,
the other
this will be a little
side.
steeper hill,
It's not
but
as steep
we
as
still-
Flagpole Hill.
but we still could, at that same token, we still could incorporate seating in that somehow too.
That was my thought, is what if we spun the pavilion and put its backside up against the picnic area, and then still made that a sliding hill, but in the summer it would act as seating for that pavilion?
Mike's-
So, I guess if you look at the other two figures there, back in 2011, both those, that spinning it option and the facing in option were both actually bid. So the design was actually made for both those options. Just they didn't receive bids back in 2011, and it basically looks like it got dropped back then. But those two kind of figures that follow this memo here had the facing towards the hill option, which is that cut in that exhibit that has the two hills drawn. But then the other sheet, the one that's just before the figure with the image, has the setting it up against the hill. The problem with that obviously would be if we built that hill at that location and then tried to push this up against it, you can't sled there anymore. You'd hit the top of the pavilion.
How about if we were to take the pavilion, the way it's shown, facing, or the back of it, shift it to the southwest, go west direction and then south direction more. So it's pushing it
So it's
Towards the
facing
playground.
south.
towards the playground, towards that picnic area, that blue area, the trail,
That's what
closer
I,
to the
that's what I
trail.
said
That's what I was,
originally.
that's what I was
So
talking
that if
about.
they do go use the sliding hill, it would move that out of their way coming down. And would that still work? I mean, I'm not the engineer, so would that still work for that?
Here's
Or
my
location
question that
B.
would solve all this.
Then you have that whole
Can
bottom
we
area
do-
for seating.
Can we do both of these to where we use the pavilion in the summer and then in the winter, it acts as the sliding hill. Could we put 2 in 1, so to speak?
So with this design, when they had the pavilion facing the hill, as if that was gonna be kind of a tiered seating kind of setup,
Correct.
there was never any actual design to stair step it. It was just basically
Lawn
bring your
chairs and
blanket or
grass.
something and sit on the slope. So essentially, having it placed out, as it is boxed in on this aerial image and facing in, that location is already far enough away for the sledding hill to have the taper off of the coasting of the kids, and they'd stop, because it actually is back uphill.
So
2
we
to
could
4
do
feet.
2 in 1.
So it could sit that far out, and that's why we kind of showed this box out as it's sitting back there. Obviously, that hill slope would then be a 4 to 1 instead of a 6 to 1. So people that would want to sit on that slope, it's just going to be a steeper slope to have to sit on, you know, maybe on the edge of uncomfortable for that center piece. The idea of sliding it to the side and kind of rotating it 90 degrees absolutely would work. You know, it'd be a perfectly reasonable option. It's just how you want to use either the bank of that slope and how you want to use the open space.
What Councilman Lundin though is saying, and he'll probably show you on your map here.
Or put it in location B, the hill in location A,
Yep.
And that's what my concern is.
and the pavilion in location B. Then you got
Councilman
that
Lundin
whole
though is on
area.
this,
Yeah, so-
right, and
so
I
I'm
see
just
what you're
saying
saying,
this
but
is RC4.
Councilman Lundin is saying if we were to take this and move it over towards the trail here a little more, so you have a clear shot of the hill,
No, yeah.
and then, you know, the pavilion would sit here.
And I'm sure it could be moved anywhere around in there.
All the above would work. Yep.
Correct.
I guess, according to Jason, that would be just fine, what I showed you.
Yeah.
And if we're gonna do the sliding hill, I think that would work. The pavilion or stage or whatever is not something that's gonna happen in a couple of years' time or years' time or whatever.
Well, it is gonna go on goal setting for 2020.
Well, and I would like it to be, but I think,
I'd like it to be, that's why it's gonna go on, it's gonna be
Well-
one of mine I bring up.
Also, you know, it could go here, the pavilion could go here, and then you got this whole
yeah, I
area
think
for
we,
seating.
I think we
Lawn
got,
chairs, blankets, whatever you want.
I think we're all on the same page. We
there's
want to have
a
the
few
sledding
options.
hill off to the side and have a clear path and still have that pavilion, so.
I think I would say let's go with option A, and I think that this would also give our residents something that they do want. And I think we can always work out the hash, as long as we know that in the long term, in the future, that we do build this pavilion out here, or stage, or amphitheater, whatever you want to call it, that we can make it work with that.
Performing Arts Center.
Yes. So I'm in favor of location A and let the Public Works do it, under the assumption, Mr. Sylvester, that staff can get the time to do it. I mean, do you feel that you can get the time to do it?
Obviously, you're not going to be able to do it this year, Matt.
Yeah.
Are we talking location A with dirt? Are we talking, is that what we're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Existing dirt we haven't had?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I want
Yeah.
Public Works to do it. I mean, that $7,000, it sounds like a lot, but it's a lot better than 22,000.
I tell you what, the swing set can run you $7,000.
Oh, I get it.
More than that.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
just your,
That's just for
Really
a sled, or a slide,
set.
I mean.
Yep.
$7,000. Boom, that easy.
But I think that this sledding hill, which I've had many people approach me, why don't we have this?
I've had too many to count, to
Yeah,
be
and
honest.
I'll be honest with you, I think I'm okay with location A and letting Public Works do it, as long as the Public Works is not gonna be hurt in getting their other tasks done.
You know what, my goal would be to try to get it done in the spring, not something we're trying to grow grass in the summer and get a torrential downpour in the summertime, wash everything out. So
Yep.
my goal would be try to get it done in the spring, and a lot of it, that depends on the spring and how far into spring we get snow.
Yep,
You know what I mean? That's where kind of the deal breaker is for me in my end.
but I would be all for it to do that. I have a lot easier way of spending $7,000 of the city's money when it's going back to the public.
and it's another outdoor activity that we can do in town.
Yep.
Not everybody ice skates.
Can
but
we
it's
put the
nice that that
flagpole
option
on
is there.
top of our hill? I'm kidding.
Is it-
Any,
and that's
any
another-
comments by this side here? You gentlemen have been kind of quiet?
No, I was all over the spot A. I mentioned I wanted to put it up against
Councilman Gordon, any worries on your end, sir?
I don't know, what, I mean, that grade, how does that compare to the hill in Cambridge? Because that one in Cambridge is probably that's where
Cambridge,
everybody goes right now,
it's a
right?
little longer,
Okay.
I would think, isn't it? I don't know. It's
definitely longer. I've been on that hill so many times, it's definitely longer.
I said it in this morning's meeting that I'm hearing a lot of people refer to it, and they're gonna correct me because they know and I don't. It's called Death Hill, is that right?
I've been down a lot steeper ones than that.
What's that
The
called?
one in Coon Rapids has like two
Killer
slopes
Hill.
and-
Okay, so
Killer
they,
Hill.
Both
they call it
steeper than
Killer
Cambridge.
Hill because if you go down the hill and you get to the bottom, you notice there's a trash can down there, and it's full of broken sleds.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, even if we build this, is it gonna be as fun as the one in Cambridge? Because
Well,
yeah.
you know, we could always mogul it and.
Well, Mr.
I don't think it matters. I think people want something local. I mean,
Mayor and
I don't-
Council, I think we'll
You're
have
ki-
Mr. Cook talk that, because he did go over to Cambridge, so.
Yeah, I reviewed the LiDAR, the kind of contour maps of more or less all sledding hills that I'm aware of in kind of the region. And this 20-foot high at a 4-to-1 seems to be kind of the standard, on the shorter end, but the standard sledding hill that is where people go to. You know, obviously, once you're getting to the 30, 40-foot vertical drop, you know, those are some serious hills, but not too realistic for the kind of flatter grades we have around here. The Cambridge one, just by the contours, looks to be about the same 4-to-1 slope. And in general, the actual slope section that's that steep, again, just by the LiDAR contours, is about the same elevation change of about 20 feet. Then the tail off just kind of continues at like a 6-to-1 for a little bit longer, where ours will hit the bottom and more or less just flat off right away. So you'll be able to stop a little quicker with this hill, but the actual segment where you're getting some speed would be similar. The other piece would just be, you know, this is basically only adding 8 feet up from the existing ground. Like if you go by there, there's a young tree planted kind of right in the mid-curve, right in the front edge. Basically, the top of that tree at that location would be the new height of the hill. And that's all the really higher that we're looking at going. It'd just be a little steeper. So then in the future, if this, you know, wanted to get a little higher, a little more, a little steeper, you know, you'd have the option to just add more in the future. But with the material we have on hand, it more or less is very comparable to,
Cambridge.
yeah.
And I think it's kind of like the Field of Dreams, Councilman Gordon. If you build it, they will come.
Okay.
Well, I think,
There
yeah.
is another hill, my wife was saying, I didn't grow up around here, so I don't know, and my kids aren't old enough to get real serious about sledding yet, but, behind the middle school, she said there's a pretty good hill already?
Yeah, right into the woods.
Okay.
Does that include going into the river then?
You'll be trimming trees when you go through there.
Yeah, with your own body.
That's part of the fun though, too.
Yeah.
Well, even
I
if,
don't know,
yeah,
I could go, I'm not gonna be a fan of the amphitheater probably, but, you know, I know you guys are pushing for that. I
Outdoor
know that's part of the
concerts?
plan.
Outdoor concerts, Councilman Gordon?
movies.
Not for $750,000, but if I was.
It's not that pricey.
Well, that's what I heard.
No way. You're hearing wrong,
Okay.
sir.
Well, anyway, if I was to go with a spot, I guess I would pick A and the cheaper option, but yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say on it.
well, I think even if the families go to Cambridge, I think after school and those that don't go to Cambridge, the 10 to 14-year-olds are gonna be over there. It's gonna be I think it's gonna be a hangout
Well,
spot,
a
you know.
lot of them will be able to.
I'm
swap
going
from
sliding.
home.
Are you kidding? If we have one here.
Yeah. And you'll see all kinds of kids out there with their, what do they call those, the single
Snowboards.
snowboard, I couldn't think of the word, but snowboards, and I almost guarantee after school it'll be a hangout
I'll buy a
spot.
toboggan and the 5 of us can go down together.
Yeah,
No.
that would be a great picture for the Isanian.
You can be up front.
Of course,
I'll be up front. I'm fair.
I'll
I'm
be
all
at
right
the
with
bottom
that.
watching you.
that'll break the open meeting law, so we'll have to invite the public.
Well, yeah, we'll open the hill with us going on
Ribbon
down on a
cutting
We'll
toboggan.
publicly notice it that all council members are going sledding on such and such.
Yeah,
Okay.
opening
No,
the hill.
but-
We're gonna toboggan down it together.
But mayor and council on this, so for this item, this is not included in the 2020 budget, so this will come back to council with a potential funding source, because it is unbudgeted. So that'll be coming before council after the first of the year.
Like, the only, I just want to add a couple things. Great job, Matt. And these are the numbers I've been wanting to see for a long time. Someone actually dug into it deep and got some good hard numbers, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And then the other thing is, I think, is if we can get a light eventually in the future on top of the hill, because it gets dark at 4:30. And the power, I believe we got power right there from the flagpole, correct?
Yeah,
So
the
that's
toe of
something
the
that could be
slope.
feasible.
Yep, the toe of the slope by the fit that we see.
Well, then
is
maybe
gonna
we
be
should
right
put a
at that
light and a
box.
flagpole up there. It can wave higher than the park.
Let's, it's gotta go to the budget,
Oh,
so.
that's where you
This has all got to go to a budget anyway, so let's push it forward, see if we can budget this, and we'll see if Mr. Sylvester has a spring project.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thanks for your due diligence, sir.
Definitely.
Moving on to D8, the annexed parcel code enforcement discussion, sorry. Sorry. It's been a long day. This is Ms. Selman, I believe?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. At the last Committee of the Whole meeting, the council directed me to come back with some ideas, some plans, what are some of the common violations. So in your memo, I kind of listed out what are some of the more common violations in the annexed areas. Inoperable vehicles, and that also includes if it doesn't run or if it's unlicensed. Parking on the grass, which we do not permit. Number of cars parked, the code limits you to 4. Commercial vehicle parking, boat and trailer parking, you're allowed to have 2. Trash and debris in yards, and that's like a collection of junk, things over time, garbage, what have you, items that are no longer being used. I cited a little bit of the code requirements here based on those 6 items and put together kind of a schedule of what I was thinking we might do. As you can see, the majority of them I said May 1st, and a couple of them I said April 1st. Basically, that's kind of based on the snow, when they can actually get in and remove these items. If they have trailers or something parked way back on their property, I mean, it's not realistic for them to ask to move it in the 12 inches of snow that we have. So those were kind of the dates that I had talked about for that. And then the nuisance of any outdoor storage of rubbish, salvage junk, those types of things that can be easily removed, especially garbage, that needs to be enforced immediately. And what I suggest is that we, once we agree on a timeline, we send notices out to all the property owners saying, here are the items that are commonly in violation. We will start enforcing these on X date. And then explain what the enforcement policy is. Basically, we go out, take a look. If there's a violation, we send a letter. You have usually 7 to 14 days, depending on the violation, to come into compliance. If you don't come into compliance, you are issued a citation.
Is 5 months enough for these people to react?
I mean, this is citywide here, what we're looking at.
And I'm not disagreeing. I mean, there's vehicles stored, parked outdoors must be currently licensed, operable, usable, and road legal. I get that one. Vehicles and units with motors shall be parked or stored on impervious surface. I get that. I mean, I get all these, to be honest with you, because everybody in the city abides by these.
Well, they're supposed to. Not everybody abides by them.
Okay, but those that haven't have been had a letter sent out, or
Some.
I'll admit I haven't been shy. I'll knock on your door.
I think a lot of it's complaint driven.
Correct.
For the most part.
Correct.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, as when I took over my position, I was directed that it's all, the code enforcement is complaint-based. So that's the way we've been enforcing it.
We don't take photos in the middle of the night and send them off and do any of that, huh?
My staff doesn't do that, no.
Yeah, that's awesome. Somebody else used
So we're basically, we're
used to be done that way.
I have a friend that happened to. He got a photo, not in the middle of the night, but it was during the day.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
we're-
Mr. Mayor, in your violation that there is, we do take photos of it so that we have proof that there was a violation.
So my understanding is we want all these annex properties to abide by the same codes that everybody in the city is following as well, but we want to give them a time frame to be able to adjust and remove and clean up and do whatever they need to do to make sure they're in compliance.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's been the discussion that we've had. Right now, it's not been actively enforced unless there has been a complaint, then it has been actively enforced, but we haven't gone out and said, okay, well, look, your property has all these violations on it, you need to come into compliance. That
So
has
there's-
not been done.
So there's, I know there's 3 in this audience right now that have been annexed. What would you think?
Mayor, if I may, Sheila does also, or Ms. Selman also does point out in her memo that besides the timeline, some of these she's made recommendations, or if the council wants to have discussion on, because these properties are larger, that's also in here if we want to
So if it
have-
was 1 acre or more, we could potentially,
I see
She's got
in the
2
comment
acres.
4B, there's a 2-acre thing.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Mayor, I do apologize, I did miss that part. I did
Where
also
you
follow
at?
up with suggestion that maybe that some of
Oh,
these
here.
ordinances are too restrictive for larger lots. Maybe if they have 2 acres or more, we want to change. Maybe instead of 4 vehicles, they can have 5. I mean, I don't know, that's just for discussion. I have seen that done in some other municipalities when parcels are annexed and they're quite larger than the city lots. They have more room. They're used to having items like this outside. That is something that we could possibly talk about.
and right now it's stated that if code enforcement was potentially sitting out front of their house, if they couldn't see it, it's out of sight, out of mind. Correct?
Well, if you don't see if you don't see a violation, you
So if they
can't submit a violation.
facetiously have a privacy fence and a bunch of garbage behind it, we would never know it, so there's no reason to complain.
Well, I can't say
Unless
there's no
it's
reason to
leaching
complain, but,
into a,
yeah, if we can't see the
ground,
violation,
you
we
know.
can't verify.
It's out
it,
of
we
sight,
can't
out of
enforce
mind.
it.
No, and they can't really go on your property to go
No.
look for it either.
I just know somebody that has quite a bit of property and you can't see any of his items, so, I mean, out of sight, out of mind is the way I would think of that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I mean, there are such things as administrative search warrants. If it does, if they're continual complaints, if the neighbor allows you to go on their property to look, you can. You are allowed to do that.
I'm not worried about that.
She said continual complaints. Are we getting continual complaints?
maybe you're getting, for example, maybe this person A lives next to person B, person A's got 2 acres, person B's got 2 acres, but there's an awful stench coming from person A's.
Well, that's a different story.
Because
I
they
guess-
got tons
So-
of garbage, rot, stuff.
So person
rotten.
B hereditary
I don't know how else they
complains
would
on
know.
person A, then, that's complaint based. We have a right to go out there and see what it is. And what was brought up, you could get what? A
An
warrant?
administrative search warrant, so,
Yeah.
a couple things, so, just so mayor and council doesn't have the impression that's only if code enforcement or CSO sees it from the road. If we get permission from a property to see what's also over there, so let's say they had a privacy fence on the road, but the neighbor says, hey, I'm complaining over and over, there's a stench coming from that property, and they give the CSO.
So if person A gave the okay to come on his property and look over the fence to person B,
Or-
then,
just so mayor and council is aware, it's not just us driving through on the road every time, but.
So we're getting stench complaints?
no,
No,
we're not
it's-
saying we
That
are.
was
No,
an
I'm
example.
asking I just want to know the size of the problem. That's all I'm
No,
trying to
we're,
No,
we're not saying we
I
are,
was
and we're
just-
not getting them.
Okay.
Councilmember Burgley, that's just a theoretical
just-
example.
Okay, I just wanted to know that.
It's just about getting
Thank you.
people, do we want to enforce that they get in compliance like the rest of the residents?
Can we just kind of take these one by one and discuss them a little bit? Because I think there's some that are, you have different timetables on them for for reasons, because some of them are easier to correct than others. And, the first one, I think that's probably a pretty easy to get done, I would assume. And you had mentioned kind of talking to the people in the audience, maybe we should kind of see what their opinion is on a few of these. But, vehicles stored and parked outdoors must be currently licensed, operable, usable, and road legal. Storage of dilapidated or unsightly units is prohibited, and you suggest May 1st for that. I mean, to me, that seems probably pretty reasonable and
I agree.
pretty easy to correct, right? So that one in my opinion, I would say that's probably, May 1st is probably a reasonable timetable on that.
That's for removing vehicles.
Yeah, right.
Ground's pretty soft still.
Yeah, you might be right.
I want,
Yeah.
I would lengthen that a little bit.
And there again, it's also gonna come to the size of the lot too.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
there's some largeable lots. I mean, you get down to your number of cars, code limit 4. Well, if you have 5 acres, that's kinda, that's to me is like 5 acres would be, for every acre is 4 houses. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think all of them you could say really, the size of the lot could really affect all of them because
It could, but anything that we're gonna move on, I mean, like Councilman Collison says, we don't wanna go and have a tow truck go in there and rip up their yard. We wanna
No.
make sure that, you know, that the ground is solid, and May 1st just seems like it would be too soon.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that would be our suggested enforcement date. So then
Okay.
if we get complaints starting May 1st, you'll be in violation. You will start getting it. And it also could just mean it needs to be licensed. That doesn't,
It
that's
needs to
not
be
towing
li-
it, that's
I'm
going
sorry.
and getting your tabs.
But if they say it don't run, we don't want it here, we're gonna remove it, well then, now we're facing a whole different cup of tea, so. Then we'd have to say, when is the ground gonna sell, June, July?
I would say June, you're fine.
So then you're saying June 1st, you have to have that car out of there.
If it's.
If they're gonna get rid of it.
If they're gonna get rid of it?
Yeah, if they say, oh, it doesn't run, it hasn't ran for 3 years, we're gonna get rid of that car, we're not gonna license or insure it, or, it's just gonna go, okay, well then you have till June 1st to remove that vehicle.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. That gives them a lot of time and
And I would agree with that, there's kinda, a lot of these you could sway on, depending on,
I don't like any of it. I don't like that we have to do any of it.
I don't either.
No, I don't either.
I'm not a fan of it.
But everybody in the city complies to these.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, it's been 12 months now that they've been in the city, and
The one thing that, you know, I look at this, talking about parking their vehicles on an improved surface, they were never required to before. And, you know, this annexation is a tough thing, because there is properties that are in the city of Isani that do not have impervious surface, they still have dirt driveways. So I'm thinking that that's something that needs to be grandfathered in on this
That was the
situation.
biggest one I was concerned about too, is, I mean, if you got a big lot and you've got a big driveway and you got gravel on it, like, I mean,
that's
what do you
I was-
consider an
yeah.
impervious service?
yeah, what's the
Well,
impervious
That's
surface?
why I
It-
brought that up at the last
Yeah.
meeting, because
But
you
that's-
can't expect them to asphalt.
I,
that.
and I sure wouldn't want to go to one of these people that were annexed in here to say, okay, now you got to put concrete or asphalt in front of your driveway, your house, so you can park your vehicle on it.
Yeah, right.
Now you're enduring another cost on them that shouldn't have been done.
Correct.
I think, personally, in my opinion, in this annexation properties, we have to forego that impervious surface.
I would agree.
Oh, I would agree with that, absolutely.
Because there is places in Isani that are parking, that are been in town for many years, that do not have impervious surface, because they have dirt driveways.
I can think of at least
Parking
two
lots
right
that are dirt.
And there's parking lots that are dirt. So that, I think, needs to be removed from there. And I'm not trying to belittle anybody that's in the city of Isani or somebody that builds a new property. That's all, this is just being grandfathered in. I mean, we gotta be as fair as we can to them. None of us all like the situation that we're in to start with, so.
I don't think we need to remove it, but we just need to grandfather the,
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, if I may, so that is a city code, so we'd have to amend the code, and we could say something like if you were
an acre or more and
acre or
annexed
more, or
in.
part of the city starting in, you know,
You can't
today.
even say acre or more, 'cause there's-
2009. or
Today.
2020,
Today on forward.
Then you need to comply to this, or, you know, some.
I would use from this point, I would say from this point forward.
Yeah.
Because this annexation already was
Right.
going to take effect.
So from
So that we're
2020.
not, so that means, you know, because anybody else that built a new property in town or built a house, they're already on impervious surface. So they have to abide by that code. So I would, you know, using this day forward,
Yeah.
or when the annexation is 100%, I don't know when it's gonna be 100% done. Is it the first of the year?
Oh,
mean it-
I'm not sure.
It was the first
It's
of this
complete.
year.
Yeah, it's complete.
It's
Is that complete? All right.
yeah.
I would say from this, from January 1, 2020, moving forward. That's what I would state at it.
Okay?
Because I think that's just an endured cost that I don't think these residents need to, I think they've gone through enough, and I don't think we need to push them through anymore.
I concur. Ms. Wood?
Yeah, so Mayor and Council, on that item there, I think we'll ask the attorney, the city attorney, what would be his suggested language. We get what you're what you want to say and what you're looking for, but I think we'll ask him for specifics on that, so there aren't too many loopholes of where we could maybe get in the crux of things, but I just want to be clear on that one. Is it annexed parcels, or do we want it to be annexed parcels plus a certain land requirement of the 1 acre? I've heard that brought up.
I would say annex parcels and 1 acre, whatever.
1 acre or
But
more.
there's lots in town that have dirt driveways that are less than an acre.
And I believe on those, if they have to do any kind of, if they pulled a permit to build an addition to their garage, they'd have to bring their driveway up to standards, I believe is how those are done, but I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, that's
I
correct.
wouldn't
It's
treat
for
them any
any
different though.
No, I wouldn't
lot.
either. I was gonna say that.
Businesses as well.
Yep, any
If-
lot.
If they,
Town.
if even these annexed properties, if they decide to build a new garage or addition to their home, then they should be at least required, I'm not gonna say, I'm just gonna use Mr. Heeman for example, because he's got a long driveway. I'm not gonna tell him he's gonna blacktop his whole driveway.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that's
But
what
at
the
least
current
have the
code says.
impervious surface at the garage area to park on.
So potentially,
It
I'm
says
hearing
the
that we
whole
might
thing.
want separate language for parcels that are over 1 acre, separated out.
I know that's what our code says currently, but that's ridiculous.
There, like I said, there's houses downtown that are less than an acre and have a gravel driveway.
And
They're
they can't have-
grandfathered in, so
and,
why
well, no,
wouldn't
they're-
anybody else be?
They can have a gravel driveway until they want to do an improvement.
And then they do an improvement, and then they bring it up to, they have to bring it up to code is what our city code says.
That's correct.
But that shouldn't be for these annexed properties. If Mr. Heeman wanted to
What's
build
this-
a third
I mean-
garage or second, I
don't-
shouldn't say, oh, guess what? You have to pave your whole
What's
driveway now.
What's the smallest annex lot are we talking about here on this recent annexation? What's the smallest lot?
I personally, I don't care what size it is. I really don't. I don't care what size it is. I just,
don't
I
either.
think we just need to clarify it so that if what,
I'm just thinking in comparison to the lots in town. That's what I-
I think
the
an
lots in
acre-
town are already grandfathered in. They're not gonna change unless they add on to their property.
Yep.
Then they have to come in compliance.
Yep.
Right, but that
But
would,
that's not what we're talking about here.
right.
We're talking
Councilman
about making
Lundin,
them in
that,
compliance
yeah.
right away.
No, actually, the annex parcels, the annex parcels would fall under that same thing. If they do nothing, we're not gonna come in and say, you need to pave your driveway. It's not until they also pull a permit to do an improvement as well.
That's what I was getting. That's what I
Yeah,
said.
But
that
what,
shouldn't
They,
be.
we haven't discussed that part yet.
so what if we're getting to is if there's something would need to be written differently or separately or in addition to what we currently have, if we wanted to allow them, let's say, sorry, I'm gonna use Heeman as an example, he wants to build a garage out there. Are we going to require him to put in a paved driveway? If we are not, we could maybe base it on the size of his property, that these size properties, let's just throw out the 1 acre, anything greater than 1 acre, if they do an improvement, are not required to upgrade their driveway, something like that.
That's exactly it.
That's exactly
But,
what I
That's
would
what
go
I
with.
but like I said, it's.
Was it 1 acre, Mr. Cook? Are you studying that over there, or Ms. Selman, somebody studying what our smallest annex property is?
I just happen to have how the ERUs were calculated on lots that weren't just an individual home, so I don't have the smallest ones, but the larger lots that weren't developed, let me just do,
Or do you want to do it by length of current
there's a
driveway?
1.5 acre lot that's of, that would be this type of lot that you're talking about.
So we
After
could
that,
say anything greater than 1 acre.
Yes,
it looks
1
like
acre
that
or
would
more.
Generally cover all these.
That would be
but,
safe. So, yeah.
1 acre or more.
1 acre or more.
But wouldn't you
And
have
we
to
can review
say
that
that
if we
how
find
much
that there are-
driveway you have to pave? Because you wouldn't
No,
make
no, no,
Mr.
we're-
Heeman, you wouldn't make Mr. Heeman pave that whole driveway.
No,
No, no,
what
no.
we're saying, Councilman Burgley, is if you had 1 acre or more, you wouldn't have to bring your property up to code.
Your
So,
length.
as a
Your
matter of
whole length of
fact,
your
I
driveway.
believe you gentlemen have dirt driveways.
And what we could do.
So, now, so we're not picking on Mr. Heeman anymore. These gentlemen have dirt driveways too. If they wanted to build a garage on a second or third garage on their property, well, you have more than 1 acre. So you don't have to bring it up to code. Do your due diligence on pulling the correct permits and build your garage. Have fun.
What we can do, Mayor and Council, if, let's just say that the smallest parcel is 0.76 acres, we could use that number, so then it really does encompass all
Yes.
annexed
Yes.
parcels.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we'll
There we
find out
go.
what that
That's what I
smallest
was
lot
getting at, so
Perfect.
we wouldn't
is.
even have to put it
Perfect.
in there for the annex.
It's
so that
another
it would
endured
cover
cost to
everyone,
these
but we
people
didn't
I
write
don't
that it
wanna
covers
see
just
them
those
pay.
people or whatever.
Yep, to take the smallest parcel, set it at that standard,
Move forward.
and move forward.
Okay, next bullet, next one.
Mr. Mayor, that's not one of the items I have on here for discussion. It's a separate code, so you want that amended. Because what I have on here is talking about parking vehicles. This has nothing to do with expanding the driveway or getting a building permit.
But
That's-
we started getting into the
So-
code enforcement, so that's how we got onto
So
the
that's
driveway.
a second code, so just so you know,
Parking issue.
I'll bring
Yeah.
that back, but it's not.
The rest
in
of these
here.
code, nobody has any concerns with these codes, do we? That was just the impervious surface is what we were worried about. I mean, the removal of their, or they have their license, are their vehicles licensed, operable, or road legal? I mean, that,
I mean, limiting the vehicles to 4 vehicles is, if it's a larger lot,
Like I said, go with the size of lot that she says, if, say it's 0.76 acre lot.
so you would apply that to all of these?
Yes. Unless they do,
You're talking about vehicle count, right?
Anything, well, all of
The
these,
next item on here is
every one of these.
number 3 is the maximum number
So
of
if you
personal
got
vehicles allowed.
.76 acres, you can have 12 cars parked in your yard?
I think, I like the 2 acres.
That's what you're
I
saying?
like the 2 acres for the 4 vehicles. I think you're right with that.
Well, we have 4 vehicles right now. That's current code.
and that's on a quarter acre.
Yep.
Yeah, but
So,
I'm saying
okay, so if
stay
it's
with-
3/4
stay
of an
with 2
acre, that'd be
acres.
4, 8, 12. That'd be 12 vehicles if you're gonna go by the standards of a quarter acre lot. That's a normal size
That's what
lot.
I'm getting at. Do we want 12 vehicles sitting in someone's
I agree with that.
3/4 acre lot?
I like to just keep it down to 2 acres, keep it at 2 acres now.
I wouldn't put an acreage to it, or you're gonna have someone running a junkyard.
We could
Maybe-
put it,
Maybe you do a vehicle per acre then.
No, you can't do that either.
No, you can't do that either, then, because you're allowed 4 vehicles on a quarter of an acre lot now.
Or an acre lot. If you're in town, it's 4
The acreage-
vehicles outside.
the acreage could definitely apply to the impervious surface. That one's cool, I get that one.
Yeah.
But as far as unoperable vehicles or unlicensed vehicles, the city has 4 right now. And that's just in a home like,
No, that's just-
Councilman
just
Gordon.
personal vehicles that you're driving is what we're talking
And
about.
parked in the driveway, 4 vehicles.
okay, and that goes for any
Now,
of
if you
us.
got a 30 by 40 garage on your 2 acre parcel, obviously you can get more than 4 cars in there. So you can have 8. 4 of them are inside, 4 are outside.
I believe it's,
So-
excuse me, Mayor Council, Ms. Selman, it's 4 outside. So if you had
Yep.
5,
That's
you could have
outside.
5, but you have to
Right,
put the
that's
one
what
car
I
in the
said.
garage.
Well, you
got a-
said garage, if you had a
If
garage,
you had
could
a
fit 'em
garage,
all
you
in.
could have 8. 4 inside, 4 out.
That's what he said.
Right,
Right.
but the 4 inside doesn't matter. The
That's what
4
I'm getting at.
outside.
He said that too.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
Really?
getting
Oh,
at.
geez, you guys are running around in circles here.
So
Mr.
you're,
Mayor.
we're
if I
not
may,
limiting them. They
right
have more room
now-
for bigger garages.
City code allows 4 vehicles in your driveway, regardless of where you live. Okay? So what I'm asking is, do we want to start enforcing that as of, I put April 1st? Or could you want to consider if they have 2 acres or more, or whatever, they can have more than 4 acres, maybe, more than 4 cars. Maybe it's it's an acre per car after 4, you're allowed 4, and if you have 1 acre, you can have 5. If you have 2 acres, you can have 6.
I'm afraid of the junkyard. That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, they have to be operable. Number 1
Well,
in
that's-
the
yeah.
discussion here is they need to be operable and licensed. That's not changing from
No,
what I heard.
no.
We're not changing that. That
No.
applies around the board, no matter how big your lot is, where you're located. That is city code. That is not changing.
But again, if it's out of sight, out of mind, however we would ever know, unless somebody complained and we got an administrative warrant and we went through all that hoopla.
Well, I also felt that a lot of this should have been complaint driven to start with instead of having a CSO go knocking on doors, so. But
That's
I
all
think
you
we
did.
just gotta do what's fair to these people. These people were put into a situation, and I don't think there's one of us up here that wanted this situation. I just wanna make what's fair to them. I mean,
I think 2 that are no longer here definitely wanted it, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
say the 5 of us did.
I think the inoperable vehicles, the trash and the debris in the yards, those are definite things that we need to be looking at. Boat and trailer parking. There again, most of these lots are larger lots. So,
Yeah, I mean,
you know what? These parcels that were annexed, if they have 6 vehicles sitting outside and they don't have a garage, I don't care. I really don't.
Yeah, but then you're going down, well, I can use South Passage. You're going down,
How do you define that?
yeah, you're going down South Passage and you hit Tyler, That's in the open, and it looks like a junkyard. There's trash everywhere, there's cars everywhere.
I went by new houses
Well, it
that
goes
look like
back to what Ms.
junkyards.
Ms. Summon said, they gotta be operable. That takes care of the junkyard right there. If they're operable, I mean, if they're sitting there for 3 months, it's probably not operable. Start that car for me. Can't do it, it doesn't start.
Well, I
The
said my
chief-
piece, so.
The chief's sitting over there pretty quietly. He's not coming and saying, well, yeah, this is, if it's not operable.
There's no
there-
good answer.
There isn't. I mean, I'm with Councilman Lundin. I don't want to put any more costs on these people because they were forced into the city to begin with. But it's what's done is done. Now all we can do is cushion it, so to speak, from here forward.
Well, I still say go per acre, but I'd say they still have to be operable, because that's where you're gonna avoid the junkyard, is if you're gonna say, it doesn't matter, have as many vehicles as you want, and none of them start, you could have a junkyard out there then.
So do we want to stick with the standard of 4 cars that are operable in
Well, I
your?
go back to per acre myself, but they still have to be operable.
I would say anything over, maybe anything over an acre, you could move 4 to 6.
I'd go along with that.
What did you said?
That's
anything
kind of
over-
a compromise,
anything over
you
an acre, go to 6?
I say 2 myself, but.
So what we're saying is the rest of the city has to have 4 or less operable vehicles in their driveway. That's city code. But if you have an
That's
acre
current
or
city
more,
code.
if you have an acre or more, you can have 6.
'Cause I'm just throwing an idea out there. I'm trying to think out loud.
It's better than what it is now.
Better than being quiet.
I would say 2 myself. I think 2. I think 1 acre is too small there for vehicles, or more than 4 vehicles.
Well, Mayor Johnson's house is on a quarter acre. I got a quarter acre. I don't want any vehicles sitting in my driveway, to be honest with you.
Nor do I. Nor do I.
But that's my personal opinion.
I'd like to fill every stall in my garage. If
I
get too
can't-
much
I
junk
cannot
in my
s-
garage and I can't park in there, it drives me nuts.
I cannot stand driving by somebody's house and there's 4 vehicles sitting in their driveway. It drives me batshit crazy, but that's their legitimate right to do it. So, but like I said, this is an unfortunate event that we have to deal with. And I don't want to push any more strenuance on these people whatsoever.
Oh, I
And if we
totally
got to
get that.
compromise at saying in an acre and allowing them to have 6 cars, we're splitting hairs here.
Okay, well, I'm just saying my opinion is 2, that's all I'm saying. I mean, if you guys wanna go with 6 cars on 1 acre,
So we got the idea of 2 acres.
I mean, you would hope
6
that
cars.
if they have 6 cars and they're, on anything over an acre and a quarter, you would hope they'd have a garage. You'd think a couple of them would be parked inside,
You think?
maybe not.
I'd have a damn pole barn in my backyard if I could have one, but I'm not allowed one. So.
Well, I mean, I could tell you, I could use it for instance, since we're going around the city, and Mr. Sylvester and I saw it. That was on, help me out here. What street was that again? Pond.
One on Pond?
Yes, Pond. So we drove down Pond, which is, a little short space, and the city owns quite a bit of that behind there, but that guy has like 15 cars.
What street is this?
Pond,
Pond?
right off of
Railroad.
Railroad and
Oh.
Pond. There's 2 houses that are in there now, and then if you go any further, you go into the city's property.
Towards the tracks.
Yeah. But right now, the guy, if you were to, go down Railroad and take a right on Pond, the guy on the left has 15 cars sitting there.
didn't
I
think there
kid
was
you
enough room
not.
back there.
Yeah, I know
Well,
what you're talking
he's
about.
got some of them on city property, which he's been told twice now that they need to be removed. And now it's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I actually meant to say something to Ms. Selman. That we need to send him the please remove these vehicles letter.
And how many acres is that?
It's 11 Pond, I believe, Ms. Selman.
How many acres is that?
How many acres does the guy have?
I'm just curious. I mean,
1, I think.
they're in
1
small
acre.
lots, I thought, back in there, but.
You could be right. Don't quote me on the 1 even, but. So I guess,
But then he wouldn't be in compliance if we went to 1 acre with 6 vehicles. He'd be out of compliance then anyway.
I would,
Right.
I would
So
say
it's at
anything,
that point, it's a moot. It's moot.
so now we're going to, I mean, Councilman Collison said, everybody does the four cars In the city, unless you have 1
Over
acre or
an
more, then you
No, not
go
1 acre, over an acre.
over 1
Anything
acre.
over 1 acre.
Then you would have
That's my thought.
6. Councilman Burgley says 2. Anything over 2 acres or more, you could have 6. He's kind of tight in the reins more so than you, but I don't know. To be honest, I'm with either or. I think we're
Can we, I don't know,
meeting halfway.
just curiosity, you guys have garages, you use them?
I think Mr. Heeman does.
Can I
Mr.
ask
Heeman,
them,
if you-
can I ask that question?
Yes.
Yeah,
you can come up
he's
and
asking
state.
him to come up. Go ahead, Mr. Heeman. State your name and address again, as always. Oh, you gotta hit the button. There you go.
Monroe Road,
back
Isanti,
up.
Minnesota. Okay. I don't think any of the properties, I've talked to most of the property owners. I'm glad you guys figured out what to do with the surface. That would have been a killer for all of us. As far as cars, I don't think any of them want to have a junkyard, and I would be concerned about that. So when you come up with your regulation, I think he's more on it, you know. I would limit it 6 or maybe 7, but not include trailers. You know, a lot of these places have like RVs or big trailers and
Trailers.
stuff
ATV
like that they
trailers
have
or-
outside. I think that's what they're more concerned of. What you guys, or we, we're more concerned about is being able to park our trailers or a couple extra cars, but I would think more than 6 cars is out of hand for almost any of those properties. Otherwise, like you said, it's becoming a junkyard at that
Yeah.
point.
So would you lean towards the 1 acre or the 2 acres or more should have
I'd say
6?
at least 2 acres or more, and then I would, but I'm sure there's more than one property that would like to have inoperable vehicles included, like 1 or 2. I know what you're saying. But because we have so much land, you might have a vehicle that you only drive in the summertime and you just leave it outside in the winter.
Yeah, but
You
it's
don't use it.
operable.
If it's
And it's licensed.
It's
Current
operable and
tabs.
it's licensed, Mr. Heeman, so it wouldn't matter to us.
You can go out there and they'll start it. You just
Okay,
all you
what
do is start
about,
it.
what about, there's, I don't know, I'll have to go back down those. There's people who have tractors, maybe they don't, yeah.
That's not a
Again-
licensed, that's not a licensable vehicle, so that won't count.
Yeah, it wouldn't, it's not a licensed vehicle, so it wouldn't count.
Boy, that's the only thing, I mean, a lot of people use.
And
their
even if
land
it
for
was,
different
you-
reasons.
even
I mean,
if-
6 acres is a lot of land not to be able to have one project car sitting outside maybe for a year or 2 until you get on it. I don't know, I'm just thinking of that guy on that one street.
Tyler?
He just, yeah, he's got like 6 or 7 out there.
But
Yeah,
none of them have moved in 15 years. I've
none of
lived
them.
here.
I
So if
think
they're
you're right.
projects, they're leaving them for their kids to work on.
I agree.
Mayor and council, if I may, I believe that Mr. Heeman is touching on that number 5, if you want to look at that. He's talking about trailers and recreational vehicles, so we do have a limit of 2.
Trailers, I can see.
So, I believe.
Limited of
so you guys
2
do what we
recreational
currently
vehicles,
allow.
including trailers.
Yeah, I think that'd be fine, boat and a trailer. If they have an RV, it's, you know,
They
most
got room
RVs
to
are.
park it where most people in town don't have room to park one.
So
Yeah.
am I hearing that you're looking to increase it from 2 on these properties?
Yeah,
Raise it?
You want to raise that too,
to 3.
to 3?
That gives them an RV.
A boat.
Boat and a,
Utility trailer.
and an enclosed trailer or a snowmobile trailer or whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, we could sit here and argue this for 17 days and years and never get anywhere on this.
Well, we're not arguing,
is
though, we're
semi-
discussing.
Yeah, we're having a good discussion.
We're having a
here.
great
trying to
discussion,
Make it work
Councilman
for everyone,
Levine.
so.
All right, Mayor and Council, we may, you may want to ask Mr. Heeman's opinion and go up to that, go up to number 4, which is the gross weight, for like the semi-tractors and things like that. So if you go up to that one.
That's what,
Limits
what
vehi-
now, is 14,000 pounds?
15.
15,000.
It says here,
That's a
limits
tractor.
vehicles for 15,000
No, with no
pounds.
trailer.
I'm grandfathered in on that. And did the administration ever look up state statute and make sure? Because according to my attorney, I'm grandfathered in. I've used that property that way for 30 years. The city can't take that land use right away from me.
You're
Actually-
under the weight limit anyway.
Yeah.
No,
We
no.
actually increased
he's
the
not.
weight
When you
limit
mention
here.
the weight of my vehicle, no, it's a 33,000 GVW. You asked how much it weighed, it always weighs under 15,000 going up and down the driveway. But as far as classification, no, it's a commercial vehicle.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Well, I
Right.
think.
It can
I-
be a
I-
commercial vehicle, under 15,000 pounds.
Well,
Let's
no-
just be clear, what it says is 15,000 pounds GVWR.
So he wouldn't be in compliance by what this says.
No.
But I also stated that he should have been allowed to with his vehicle, because first of all, he's got more acreage than that to
So do we
require.
want to have a higher, heavier vehicle allowed for that on a certain number of acres?
Correct.
Is this at the 2-acre mark?
Yes.
1-acre mark?
2 acre would be sufficient, wouldn't you not? Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. I
2
mean, it-
acres or more, you should be allowed
Yeah,
50,000.
That would be
Shoot.
fair,
but-
because there's a lot of over-the-road semi-drivers, and
Yeah.
if they got 3 acres like a lot of these people do, I can't see a reason they can't park overnight
Right.
or a week or two or
yeah.
whatever.
No, let's bring that up to that.
Did we cover all those yet, Ms. Selman? Or we gotta keep going, or is there any more? The rubbish, that's
I think that.
a no-brainer.
That's a no-brainer. I think.
Thanks, Mr. Heeman.
Council, if I may, also on these, so let's start back up number 1. I did hear June 1st was the preferred date for compliance.
Correct.
For certain
June 1st.
things,
I did not hear anything
because
about
of
the
the
date.
snow and stuff.
Okay, so do we want to amend any of those proposed dates for any of the following, 2 through 5?
Why wouldn't we just switch them all to June 1st?
Fine.
Okay.
Across the board, done.
Yep, June 1st.
What do we want to do about the vehicles? We want to go, you want to go 2 acres for 6 vehicles, or?
2 acres or more,
Well,
they
I
can
thought
have
we were-
6 vehicles.
Okay,
All right.
let's just make it easy. I mean,
The majority.
That's what I mean.
yeah,
Well,
And they have till June 1st of 2020 to comply.
and then we want to change that weight, you said on?
Yes.
Yep,
four?
yep.
Commercial vehicles.
2 acres or more, they should be able to have, I don't see why you could go up to 50,000 pound GVWR, as far, I mean,
As long as the road pulling out of their driveway is gonna
yeah.
handle the weight.
80,000 covers a
That's what you-
semi-tractor trailer, right?
Oh, yeah.
So go
Well, that would be
Go
the trailer, go
80,000.
80,000 then.
But then you're gonna run into problems when they pull out, say Jim's on a gravel driveway, he pulls out onto the city road with that 80,000 pound rig, fully loaded.
He's been doing it now.
Yeah.
He's been doing it all along.
I've made up with the name Jim.
I know, but I'm just saying,
he's been doing it all along already.
They've been doing it already.
Right.
So if it didn't ruin it then, why would it ruin it now?
Change of ownership, different house, different location. The road outside the driveway still has to be able to handle the weight of that vehicle turning out
Well,
onto it.
most of our roads are rated for that anyway, are they not?
No, the majority of our roads are more of a 7-ton. I guess it's per
Yeah,
axle
9
weight,
ton.
but
So they could come in there with the tractor, but not the trailer.
Correct.
So then that's what we say, you can come in with your tractor, but no trailer. So what would
Mayor
the,
and Council, if I may, I think what I will propose is, we're gonna staff will work on some of this language. Some of this will need to be looked at by the attorney, so we get some specifics in here. We'll include language about acreage. We'll include language about if the property then sells or changes hands, that these maybe special restrictions may or may not be there, depending on what it is. All of the compliance will be looked at, at June 1st. And we'll bring this back to another next cow, with the specific language in for you to all review.
and once that happens, keep informing these residents that we're discussing it once again.
Mayor, do you want to ask if there's anyone else who would like to speak on any of these
Yeah,
issues?
anybody else in the audience that'd like to speak on any of these? They feel they're fair? You feel they're fair? I mean, we've kind of elbowed you in the face already. We don't want to do it no more.
I feel there's people that do have various trailers because that's what they need, and that should not be an issue. If things are parked and put away out of sight, out of mind, it shouldn't be any of your guys' concern.
If it's out of sight, out of mind, none of our business.
Thank you.
And I would totally agree
As
with
far
that.
as parking trailers go.
If it's out of sight, out of mind, we'll never know. It's kind of like that saying, what you don't know don't hurt you. That's what I fall under.
And if then you decided not to make tar our driveways and pull a building permit, I don't want to pull a building permit to redo my roof and then have to tar my driveway.
We've already covered that too.
We already covered that.
We
Yeah.
wouldn't do that to you.
We're- Yeah.
You're very welcome.
Can I ask a question about the annexation? It's not quite related because I missed it. I just
Have-
noticed
Mr. Heeman, if you would go up just.
Yeah, just come up.
Thank you.
Make this quick, Mr.
I'll make it
Heeman.
quick, hope someone can answer it. I noticed you changed water and sewer, you were discussing it tonight, and compliance and inspection. So are you, because the way the language was in it, and I just read it before I came here, and that's why I wanted to ask, I was gonna ask Jason about it anyway. Is it, the way it's worded now, it looks like you guys are gonna come in and start inspecting all the annex properties, or basically have the right to and could at will? Is that the city's intention?
Inspect them for what?
Oh, for water systems, septic systems?
Mayor Johnson, Council, Mr. Heeman. The way it is right now, if you have an issue with your sewer system, you have to go to the county. The county right now, we've delegated the authority to them, and you'd work with them to get a permit. They would inform us that you went ahead and drawn a permit.
Right.
And the way it is now, it's the same as it's always been, as long as your system is functioning, right?
Right.
And if you have or don't have access to water, then your system can be fixed.
Right.
That has not changed. We've left the same thing in the code as it always has been.
All right, because I read it that it looked like it was, you guys were gonna start going around and inspecting all these properties and stuff, and
There was
they need
talk
the
about
heads
the
up,
water
you know
tests
that.
on wells or something? We talked about?
Well, the water testing on wells?
But his problem is, he can't get sewer water.
Yeah, he can't get city
He
water.
can't get city water. So why am I gonna
Right,
force him?
I'm trying to answer maybe something that he was questioning about.
Well,
That's the only thing I can think
The
of.
well
remember.
testing, was that maybe your concern?
No, my systems are great. I'm not worried about that, but what I was just wondering, since you rewrote it, it looked like, it's strictly said in there, they're gonna get administrative warrants and start.
Oh, that's,
They didn't say, and start inspecting, but if they want to inspect or want on your property, you have to let them on. That changed from the last ordinance. So I didn't know if they changed it because of the annexation and they wanted to go and start inspecting everybody's
No.
systems, or what was going
No.
on?
No,
No.
no,
Okay. Good
no.
enough.
But I do want to clarify, Mayor and Council, that with that most recent annexed service project that we did, the service stub outs for water and sewer, his property was given stub outs to water and sewer.
Yeah, he does now.
He does know?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think they
Off
could
of
get
He
it to
can
him.
get it, if his
Or-
well failed, we could say, we have a hookup for you, Mr. Heeman.
So am I in a different category, because I know there's one category for people it's not available to, and another category with this new ordinance that if it is available, they're under different,
You can,
Different microscope.
you can pay to replace that well, but it's gonna be more than hooking up to city water.
well, I know that, I got a
No.
letter from the city of Isani saying I can
No.
replace my,
No, Mayor,
What?
that's not true. So if a well fails, they are given the, let's say it's failed for bacteria, they are given the opportunity to correct it if they can. So they can bleach their well. There's some things that they can do, tablets, bleach, whatever. If they go through the testing again and it passes, great. We let them do it a couple times because sometimes it does take a couple times.
No, what I was
Now,
saying
if
is,
it-
what if it started leaking? What if, then they had to dig it out and
if the
replace,
replacement
or
was needed.
if a
you're saying.
replacement was needed.
Right, so the way that city code has always been, and it's in the new ones, but that's how it has been, if yours does fail and it is available, you are to hook up to the city.
Yep, it has been.
That has
And I
been
know
that
that
way. That hasn't
Chris Yergin was
changed.
one of them that had some properties that were that way.
you're right. Unfortunately, I got one of them damn letters again saying as long as I own my property, I never have to hook up to city sewer and water and I have the right to redo or maintain my own systems. So that was given to me back when them other letters were given to me. But that's beside the point. I was just looking after some people on Tyler Street and Fourth Avenue. I know they had concerns about it during the town hall meetings we had about how the city would do enforcement, what would happen if their systems failed, and blah, blah, blah.
I'll be honest with you, if their system failed, I'd rather be on city water than a well. I'd rather be on city sewer than a septic.
I'd consider sewer someday, but I'd never hook up to city water, but that's my own opinion.
Yeah, so.
Thanks.
All good with that one? All right, let's move on to D9, goal setting for 2020 meeting time discussion, Ms. Wood.
All right, so we do always, or typically in years past, we've had the goal-setting meeting set on the fourth Tuesday of January. That could be up for discussion. We're thinking of changing it, but that's what it's been for many, many years. What has varied a little bit is the time. So it had been at 8 a.m. Some council members could not make it and did not feel that they were included. It was switched last year to 5 p.m. So what staff is looking for is what time would you like to have that this year? I do want to also remind you that I would like to reach out and talk to each one of you. It doesn't have to be in person, could be via phone on your schedule, to find out what you would like included for discussion on that goal setting. So we don't, as you remember last year, those of you who are here, it was a 4-hour meeting. So I'm hoping to shave that down a little bit smaller and have it be a little bit where you've given me your input ahead of time and it's more about prioritizing your goals.
Just to clarify, I believe the meeting was on Monday at 8 a.m. That's what the previous mayor always had it at. Last year was the first year, last year was the first year we had it on Tuesday. And the only reason I know that, because Monday's a difficult time for me. I take Tuesday mornings off. I would have remembered if it was on
Okay,
Tuesday.
I apologize. It must be the fourth Monday. I apologize.
The point and the fact of the matter is this, Councilman Berkeley, is I want to make sure we're all here. We
No,
are
no, I'm not
all
trying-
doing this as a team.
I'm not
so-
trying to, I'm just trying to clarify that it was on Monday.
Right,
I
right.
I don't care about.
That's here nor
I don't-
there.
I don't want it in
Councilmember
the
Burgley, you're
morning. I don't want it in
And-
the morning.
And nor do I, to be
No,
honest.
if it's during the day, see ya, I won't be here.
Yeah.
It's gotta be late in the afternoon.
And I did tell you this morning what these two would say. I already knew it, that they can't do a morning time. I bet you Councilman Collison would rather have it at night as well instead of morning, because you don't want to take a day off to come to that. That's what
Yeah,
I'd
that's-
assume.
I made it work before, but
Yeah, I prefer not.
But I would
to.
assume you'd rather
majority would
not.
rather have in the evening, that's fine by me.
Towards the end, I think the last meeting, we had 3 of us here. I was here, the mayor was here, and I think the one that used to sit here was here.
Correct.
It was just the 3 of us, because I took my morning off. I don't like doing that, but I do take Tuesday mornings off, but I'm not saying we have to do Tuesday morning.
No.
So if I'm gonna vote, I'm gonna say 6 o'clock on Tuesday myself.
On Tuesday, it'll be back on that Monday. On Tuesday, we do have park board, the 28th, so it is the fourth Monday.
That's fine with me.
No park board then. No, I'm kidding.
That's fine.
Monday would be fine at 6 p.m.
Yep,
6 p.m.?
yep.
Yeah, that works better for me too than
All right. Sounds good. We will post it as such, because those meeting dates and times will go in the January city council meeting packet coming up. And then.
What's that exact date? Do you have that,
So,
Ms.
yep,
Wood?
it'll be Monday, January 27th.
Okay,
6
thank you.
p.m. And stay tuned. I'll reach out to all of you ahead of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Give
Ms.
us
Wood.
like about a week though.
What's that?
Can you give us about a week though to think about some goals?
I'll give you 3 weeks now, and you got 3 weeks. I'll
Oh,
reach
okay.
out.
All right.
Plenty of time.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by
Second.
Councilman Lundin and a second by Councilman Collison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Therefore, we stand adjourned.